enough stanky-ass billionaires in this country that are like basically throwing their weight around, taking total control of our government at the detriment of the American people.
It hurts.
Yeah. This is actually the one issue on which you and I have disagreements.
Right. You would feel that way if it was a Democratic president that has all sorts of policies that you absolutely
No, I'm just saying on this,
I have to take the conservative attack on this. Politicians in real life do not care about the people the way that we like to think that they care about the people.
It's incredibly dangerous. And the problem is not only are we not on the same page, I believe there are groups who are actively not on the same page, meaning they don't even want to get on the same page.
It's not camp at all. I don't want to dehumanize anyone at all, but I do have a problem with people taking advantage of loopholes in our system for their own advances.
I actually financially benefit from this, but I don't give a fuck because I care more about the American people. I love my country.
You know, actual criminal justice reform is reforming policing and reforming the actual prisons so they're not torture chambers and actually rehabilitate people so they can get out.
I like you so much that I want to agree, but I also just want to give viewers a very honest accounting of my views. And homeless people refuse to go into treatment. We should just kill them.
They have to decrease that population somehow.
Wait, you don't have to get racially charged.
There's a lot of BS out there about how it's working, when in reality it's not.
But that's fine because I adore you anyway, but I'm still going to say how I disagree with you.
You think they want people to overdose and die?
Some people are just incorrigible.
So that's why I think this is relevant for everyone who's watching, regardless of where you live in the United States. Welcome to Her Take. We have an incredible show ahead for you today. We're going to question whether birthright citizenship is here to stay or if the Supreme Court is likely to strike it down. We're also going to talk about Gavin Newsom's signature homeless housing model. He's very likely going to run on it when he runs for president in 2028. But has the program actually worked, or is it riddled with fraud? We're going to discuss the hidden monster behind AI. And if we have time, we might have a little conversation about Christmas, including family, love, and what we're planning on doing. Joining us is Janel Baez, a journalist and strategic communications expert known for breaking down complex topics around finance, wellness, and public affairs into real, relatable conversations. We also have Christina Bobb, an attorney and former Trump legal advisor with a background in investigative journalism and a focus on election integrity, constitutional law, and national politics. And as always, my wonderful colleague and co-host, Lindy Li, who just recently celebrated a birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, Lindy.
I love this woman so much, guys. And that's saying a lot coming from me if you guys know the history of the show.
I mean, yeah, we definitely duked it out in the beginning.
I didn't plan to say this in this episode, but Ana she's a person of such high integrity. And the way that you see her on the show is the way that she is. This is not a presentation. It's not a facade. This is Ana.
Thank you, Lindy.
In the flesh. So anyway.
Well, Lindy, you're going to actually start the show today with a discussion about birthright citizenship. I'm really curious where we are as a country on this issue, so take it away.
On the theme of calling it like it is and giving credit where credit is due, I actually very much agree with President Trump on this issue. Right now, birthright citizenship is before the Supreme Court, and sometime this spring, next spring, we're going to find out whether birthright citizenship as we know it will stand or will it not. And right now, I want to just take a step back and give you guys a definition of how we interpret birthright citizenship and why that clashes with that of the rest of the world. There's citizenship by blood and there's citizenship by land. And most of the world operates according to citizenship by blood. And what does that mean? It means that you become a citizen if your parents are legal residents, permanent legal residents, or citizens of the country in question. Citizens by land is how we operate right now, which is basically even the children of anchor, of tourists, basically. They're known as anchor babies, or the children of illegal immigrants, the children of illegal aliens and people who don't have proper documentation. Their children are automatically categorized as citizens and completely entitled to all the privileges and benefits of being an American, which are manifold. And as an immigrant myself, I care deeply about this, and I went through the very arduous naturalization process to become an American citizen. And being an American truly is the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I don't want to dilute it by allowing people who exploit our system to just be American. through, frivolous means.
So I have a question, because I think there's a lot of confusion about how this topic even came up under the Trump administration. So this started with an executive order, which has been challenged in the Supreme Court. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that executive order entails?
Right. He basically said by fiat that birthright citizenship no longer exists. And which is very curious, because technically speaking, it's not in the Constitution. It's not, it says, let me read you exactly what it, let me read you exactly
so I was
what
going to say there's so many objections because so many people have the perception or the perspective that you are breaking the Constitution.
But it's not. Because
so it's good for us to
verbatim.
emphasize it and clarify it.
And the origins of the 14th Amendment?
It's the 14th.
It's the 14th Amendment, and what's a historical context? Hello, it's the Civil War, it's a Reconstruction era. And this amendment was enshrined for freed slaves. It wasn't for anchor babies. It wasn't for the children of illegal aliens. Everything has to, like, if you're going to be an originalist interpreter of the Constitution, you must understand the historical grounding of it. But let me read you what the text actually says, because that's really important, obviously. It's called the Citizenship Clause. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. It doesn't mean that you're passing through. It doesn't mean that you're just here for a week. It means that you have political allegiance to the land that you're standing upon. Mm-hmm. And so
it was meant to protect the children of slaves during the Reconstruction era.
The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, the Reconstruction era, these amendments were specifically tailored. We have the discussions on the floor in the Senate during this period, during the 1860s and the 1880s. This is the time that a lot of lawmakers are trying to make it up to the freed slaves and give them a chance to thrive in the new America.
So basically, Trump wants to ensure that children born here are born to permanent residents, green card holders, or American citizens. If it's a tourist, or if we're talking about undocumented immigrants, their children would not automatically get birthright citizenship. That would be the executive.
And I think that because it doesn't say that verbatim, there's a lot of confusion around that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, like what we're doing, we're researching, going back in history, and we're observing what was going on in that period of time in history. But since it doesn't say it verbatim in the Constitution, people take it very literal, kind of like you would the Bible, some people that are what you were saying, traditionalists.
Right, it needs to be interpreted, and that's what the Supreme
So there's an
Court
adjustment now that needs to be made. There's an adjustment that needs to be made.
Well, the Supreme Court's going to weigh in on it, right, Lindy?
Yes, exactly. So, but there are two alternatives that we haven't yet explored. And number one is Congress itself can clarify law.
Yes.
I mean, that's a function of
It's
Congress
actually
itself.
required in this case, right? If you're going to change immigration laws, yes.
And they haven't done so. It's actually a dereliction of duty. They should step in. But a lot of times Congress doesn't want to weigh in because they don't want the political blowback.
They're useless.
Issues, exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Some issues they just don't want to weigh in because it's a no-win. You're going to offend somebody. Another thing is they can actually, the President of the United States can direct his agencies, the USCIS, which is United States Customs and Immigration Services, to interpret it as he sees fit, which is why this is actually connected to another Supreme Court case. There's another case pending before the Supreme Court about whether presidents have agency over agencies. Pun very much intended. So obviously you're familiar with it. Do you want to tell the audience what it's about? Or?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. I mean, the case recently came down saying that, yes, the president does have the ability to weigh in and make staffing decisions.
Well, they haven't decided yet.
There have been a few, yes. There have been a couple that have come out. There's one, and I'm not sure which one you're
Supreme Court.
The lower court rulings.
The lower court rulings have come out and made various. There's differing decisions on it. However, particularly for the birthright, there are several cases on that as well because different organizations filed requests for injunctions at lower courts.
So is the ACLU.
Right. Many groups are doing it. And the case that the Supreme Court ended up picking up was Trump v. Barbara. That just happens to be the name of the plaintiff there. And they're going to have to interpret what did the 14th Amendment mean? What did the drafters mean when they said, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof? Because if they had said anybody who steps foot on America in American territory and has a baby is now a citizen, that's what it would have said. And it doesn't say that. And I was the executive secretary at the Department of Homeland Security in the first administration, and I talked to Border Patrol agents that said they would watch women wait at the line, and as they were giving birth, they actually witnessed her stepping across the line, giving birth, and the baby was born there, and the baby was taken to American hospital.
Well, it makes me so angry.
Right.
Well,
that's not the intent of the amendment.
So a lot of people like to see issues like this in a maximalist way. You're either on one side and very extreme or on the other side. My view on this is actually a little more nuanced because there are people, and in fact, there's entire industries around basically taking advantage of this loophole, right? And, you know, I have nothing against China or Chinese people, but there's a whole cottage industry that revolves around Chinese, you know, pregnant women who come here. They have their babies specifically to ensure that their babies have the U.S. citizenship, but they actually don't stay here. They tend to go back to China, and their children apply for college here in the U.S., and since they're U.S. citizens, they get a discount in their tuition.
Yes.
So I don't like the idea of abusing the system, and I do see that as a problem.
I don't think we'll have to see, of course, how the Supreme Court rules. Oral argument is sometime early in the spring, and then the ruling will likely come out in the summer. I don't think the Supreme Court is going to take an all or nothing approach to it, the way most commentators are talking about it. It's not going to be, yes, you can do it, or no, you can't. I think they will probably either, if on the bolder end, they will carve something out and actually explain what it meant and what it means, or they will say, it doesn't mean this. Congress needs to actually pass the law on what it is. It could be a couple different things.
Yeah.
But I just don't think
I hope.
So do you think it would be a model where it's a case by case?
Well, hold on. Let me jump in because I want to just explain the nuance, right? Like, I don't like the abusing the system part of this, but you also have to take into account there are people who have been in this country for decades in some cases. They do pay taxes, state and local. They pay into the Social Security system, even though knowing that they're not going to get anything out of it because they're using, you know, someone else's Social Security number in order to work. And if they've been here for decades and they've been contributing to the system, we don't really have an easy pathway to citizenship. Even if you've been here and you've been a productive member of society, their children should suffer.
Not being an American, I don't think that immediately equates to suffering. By the way, there are plenty of people in the world who aren't suffering.
No, but let's say they had children and their children were born here and they've lived here for like, let's say 10 years.
We could even, like, what country do they go back
to? I'm just saying,
we
can, I actually,
and it's a dereliction of duty when it comes to Congress, because who do you think allowed this broken immigration system to go on for? They created it.
Let me just play, actually, this is actually the one issue on which you and I have disagreement.
Right.
But that's fine because I adore you anyway, but I'm still going to say how I disagree with you. If we allow for these people to become citizens, it's still an incentive for illegal immigration.
I get what you're saying, but I just don't think it's fair for
I understand
kids
that
who
it's
are
not
born
fair.
here and they've lived here.
Yeah, I think my metric for success is not equity for the children of illegal aliens. It's the success and vitality of the United States. That is my
I know, that's why I'm
concern.
specifically referring to individuals who have been here, who have contributed to society.
I'm just concerned that...
And I think that the ones that have already been here, that have contributed to society,
right,
they're already here. But moving forward, and that's why that adjustment needs to be made so that the future looks different than the way things have been playing out.
The executive order, specifically the cases before the Supreme Court, the executive order starts from February 20th, 2025. So it's going forward from that.
It's not retroactive.
It's not amnesty. This has nothing to do with amnesty and what, you know, how that all
And
let's
look at the composition of the Supreme Court, okay? So Clarence Thomas, Alito, John Roberts, these are diehard originalists. They just will operate according to the original text.
Yeah, I have no doubt about that.
They will, according to the Constitution, nowhere, as you said, it doesn't say as long as you step foot in the United States, you will automatically become a citizen. Clarence Thomas is not going to have it. He's absolutely going to, in his cohort of Federalist jurists, they're just not going to have it. I think they might do something, like you said, they might do a carve-out like they're going to do in the other case. For example, in the independent agencies case, they're probably going to do a carve-out for the Federal Reserve because it's very important for an agency like the Federal Reserve, which was created in 1914 under the Federal Reserve Act, to have a huge measure of independence from the executive to make sure that the president can't influence the financial decisions of the Federal Reserve Board chair. But I want to make sure that we also understand that we're up against a theory called, actually, in this case, I'm in favor. It's called the unitary executive theory of justice, meaning that as much power that the president can have, he should have. That is the theory that Trump and the Heritage Foundation group wants.
You would feel that way if it was a Democratic president that has all sorts of policies that you absolutely
No, I'm just saying on this particular issue.
Oh, on this particular issue.
I really believe
the birthright.
the birthright
Okay.
thing. I just feel
But my
very strongly-
understanding, but my understanding is that Congress is tasked with making like legislation and passing
laws.
legislation.
Right?
The laws, right?
Congress
exactly.
is now actively ceding its power to
They
the
are.
president.
I mean,
That
they
is
haven't
a
done
big
that, and that's
mistake, right?
wrong. I mean, that
It's
goes
so
against
wrong,
what our government was set up
but
to
it's
do.
also just
right?
reality.
Political branches.
They are relinquishing power. They're not doing their jobs. They're not willing to put their neck on the line and saying, you know,
Honestly, I think one of the heart of this issue, and pretty much every issue in this country, is the corruption, right? Because businesses and corporations want the cheap labor. They want undocumented workers. They're the ones who bribe our politicians, which is why our politicians, both left and right, don't want to pass legislation dealing with it.
That's since the beginning.
And you've got to take the money out so they actually legislate, you know?
I think Lindy's point about how Congress is the one that needs to be doing this and how, we're not seeing it happen. What we are seeing happen is the judges step in where Congress hasn't. And everyone's going, why do we have such an active judiciary? The judiciary is supposed to interpret the laws and rule on them. That's it. They're not supposed to make the laws. But now everybody's rushing to court to try to get precedent set, to try to basically make law through the judiciary because Congress isn't doing it.
You're absolutely spot on. That's why Republicans are retiring from Congress in droves. It's not just MTG. A lot of other Republicans are just retiring because they're not being effectual. They're not being able to actually enact any sort of change.
Well, do you think that that's purposely?
I think
It's being done purposely?
I think it's a lot of corruption. I think
corruption's a huge part of it.
The system, the way that we have it right now with the two political parties and the way, all of that operates, I think it has just gotten so cumbersome, corrupt, whether it's corrupt intentionally, backdoor deals or whatever, or it's just people wanting to protect their seat and play the political game. There's so many different motivations weighing in on it that the motive is not, how do I pass laws to protect the American people?
100%.
Which is what the motivation is supposed to be.
I also just want to talk for a second about the political ramifications of this because this is also just massive. President Trump right now is not popular. I'm sorry if that offends somebody for me to point out what reality is, but unfortunately he's just not popular.
Not at the moment.
So what happens when he's not popular? Unpopular presidents tend to do one of two things. They tend to wag the dog, which is to engage in military conflicts overseas. I mean, that's a separate topic. And number
military
two,
stuff is another example of Congress ceding power to the executive branch.
Exactly.
They're funded by defense contractors who want more war. But these politicians don't want the blowback of the American people who don't want to go to war and don't want to expend our resources.
It absolves them of responsibility. So they're saying, let's give our power to the president.
I mean, they did this in Vietnam, too. I mean, it's the same old play over and over again. So number one is wag the dog. Number two is engaging in xenophobia. My attitude towards this isn't exactly xenophobic. I just want to preserve the integrity of the United States.
Right.
But
you make a really good point there, Lindy, because look, I want to have a rational debate and conversation about our immigration laws because there are people who are taking advantage of the system, and I think it's wrong. But it's hard to air those grievances or my issues with our immigration system when on the right you do have rhetoric that seems to dehumanize people. And then if you say anything that's critical of how the system is being abused, people immediately lump you in with whatever, one of the isms, racism, whatever, xenophobia, whatever it is.
I'm done with that. Like, seriously.
I'm not in that camp at all. I don't want to dehumanize anyone at all, but I do have a problem with people taking advantage of loopholes in our system for their own advances or their own, personal reason or agenda. To the detriment of this country, right?
Yeah, let me give you some numbers, though, to tell you about the extent of this problem, and I do believe it's a problem. 250,000 children are born in the United States to illegal alien parents, okay? So that's 7%. 7% of total U.S. births. That's every single year.
It's a lot of babies.
That's a lot of babies, and these babies are all entitled to vote and have a tangible impact on our body politic. That's a privilege, okay? Being an American isn't a right, it's a privilege.
But remember, a lot of them, especially when we're talking about the Chinese population that comes here for that specific reason, a lot of them do go back to China.
But they still vote.
Well, the parents.
Well, I'm really
children
curious
do
to see
too?
data on that. I'm not sure.
Oh, there's another
what
thing that we
percentage.
haven't even talked about. It's the problem of chain migration. And so illegal aliens know that once their children become citizens, they can then bring their own parents and their grandparents and their aunts and their uncles and their cousins and their second uncles and Uncle Joe or whatever, and everyone can come to America.
You know, it's obviously a very big deal, but also when you think about the essence of it, I mean, look at our backgrounds.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody is an immigrant.
Definitely, yeah.
So when you really get down to the essence of it, it's like, how do you make such a big decision like this when it impacts so many people, when in fact everybody in this room is pretty much an immigrant?
Exactly.
So what are the determining factors that really make us rule out one group of people versus the other?
What do you mean? I just want to separate the lawbreakers from the people who follow the law.
So I'll give you an example. So the way my parents came here was as refugees of the Soviet Union. At the time, you know, the Soviet Union was in control of Armenia. My parents were living in Armenia. They came separately. They didn't know each other.
And I'm so glad they did, because through you, they made a massive impact on American society.
That decision was made based on geopolitical conflicts, right?
Yes.
The U.S. wanted to contain communism or destroy communism, and one way to do that is to engage in a form of brain drain, I guess, from these, you know, Soviet-ruled countries. That was one example. Cuba's another example, right? So in the case of Cuba, many Cubans after the Cuban Revolution were able to come here legally because of amnesty. Mm-hmm. So it is interesting to see, like, in this nation's history, there have been policies that tend to favor one group of immigrants over another. I don't know why or how those decisions get made, but it does seem a little unfair to, like, let's say, usually this happens under a Democratic president these days, have amnesty for a specific group of people, while at the same time, there's this weird limbo situation for people who have been here for decades. There's really no path to citizenship. They want to be legal. They've been here for decades.
Well,
so that's why, like,
case studies. You look at some case studies where, I mean, and these are people that I know personally. You know,
right.
Their parents came here illegally. You know, then they were able to become an American citizen after X amount of years, but they became extremely successful entrepreneurs. So then you think about, well,
yeah,
how am I going to negate somebody to become an American citizen or come here illegally? But then they become so impactful in the economy because now they're multimillionaires contributing to the economy of this country.
You're bringing up a good point. It's a difficult,
Those people
nuanced
should
question.
Say immigration should not be dealt with in a blanket manner. It should be case by case. We should.
I agree with you on that.
We should handle it in a humane manner.
Yes. I agree with you on
that.
that.
But I can tell you exactly the type of immigrants I don't want: people who engage in medical fraud, who exploit the Medicaid system. We have this huge unfolding situation in Minnesota, and Governor Tim Walz is actually involved in it as well.
I think Tim Walz is responsible for ignoring the warning signs about that issue. So, look, the fraud issue is unacceptable, and anyone who's trying to make excuses for it is ridiculous, okay? But also, when it comes to...
This was built on fraud.
I mean, Medicare fraud, no, I just gotta say...
Wait, did you
Please don't get mad at me, Armenians. I love you, I'm Armenian. Please don't hate me. But there's so many different groups of people who have, like, ripped off the Medicare system.
Yes,
and Armenians have done it, and no one's
the Rick Scotts of the world. We have the senator of the very state that we're in engaged in the biggest Medicaid fraud in the United States history. What was it, like a $3 billion or something like that?
So look, I don't bring that up to trash Armenians. Obviously, I love Armenians. I'm Armenian, but the reason why I bring that up is because no one ever used those examples of Medicare fraud to make a point about the entire Armenian population, and I feel like that's happening right now when it comes to Somalians.
I really hope somebody can pull up the numbers, though. I think it was like 87%, or what was it? Like a huge, enormous amount of Somalians in that community were involved.
And I think the difference is Ilhan Omar is in Congress.
Yeah.
So at what point, like, and I'm not,
and she didn't come out and, like, aggressively denounce it.
And she's representing that community.
Yeah.
And so then the question goes, okay, so wait a minute, how deep does it go in the state level? Because you have the governor involved, there's clearly some either level of knowledge on the part of the government or willful ignorance on the part of the government. And at some point, one of these people, everyone has to go through an investigation, but one of the Somalis ended up becoming a member of Congress, which is now dictating one of 435 members, dictating law to the rest of us.
One thing I say to the federal government,
flag.
The federal government, if they really want to target waste, fraud, and abuse, I think the first thing they should start investigating are, like, adult daycare centers.
Yes.
Okay, those are just riddled.
It's everywhere. And all the nonprofits,
Yes,
anybody
everywhere.
who's gotten a grant from anywhere within the government, it's the grant recipients. And I work for Judicial Watch. I met a nonprofit. We do not take any money from the government, but all of these nonprofits out there that are taking grant money, and we're going, why is stuff still broken? Because they're not actually doing what they're getting the money to do.
Okay, well, as an immigrant myself, I feel like I can say this. If you're an immigrant in the United States, you are a guest. You're not entitled to take away our furniture, ramshackle through our homes, steal the spoons and, whatever. You're not entitled to that. You have to act accordingly.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of frustration among the American people because we all work hard. We pay into these, services, these programs like Medicare or Medicaid, like Social Security. And so there's a frustration about people who aren't paying into the system, taking advantage of the system. And that resonates. I can understand that. At the same time, I just think we need to be careful with our rhetoric, not demonize an entire group of people. Like, I really don't want to do that.
I agree.
And be, precise in our language and where we see maybe some wiggle room where laws can be reformed to make space for people who have been here for a long time and have been good, productive members of society. And do something about preventing individuals from taking advantage of loopholes in our system.
And then if there is going to be rhetoric like that, targeting such a big group of people, there should be data if you are going to be commentating about that, like, 80% of Latinos are so-and-so. You just can't generalize something
He
out
actually
of thin
did produce the data, though. It was a massive percentage of that particular
Okay, when the data's there.
In Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge Somali
There's something, I think Piers Morgan was the one who said this. There's something to be said about not targeting specific ethnicities, but targeting specific people who engage in maladaptive behavior. They have...
Well, and how do you measure that? If it's
by committing Medicaid fraud.
Okay. Yeah, if you get caught,
if you commit a crime, I mean, that's very evident.
Well, speaking of fraud and speaking of nonprofits, I would like to move on to a topic that I care deeply about, because I think a mistake that gets made on the left quite often is this idea that if we just spend more money on solving a problem, the problem will be solved. And that's not the case, especially in a state like California, which has been grappling with a high number of homeless individuals. We do have a housing shortage in California, as we do all over the country, but it's particularly an issue in California. We have 181,000 homeless people in the state. And so Gavin Newsom, who very obviously is planning to run for president in 2028, is very likely going to campaign on his signature homeless housing program, which is known as Project Homekey. The only issue is reporters have not been doing a good job in covering it. There's been a lot of lies in the media, and I did an investigative report for Real Clear Investigations to just kind of unearth some of the fraud that's taken place as part of this system. So let me give you the details as we know them. So as California Governor Gavin Newsom prepares to run for president, he is likely to tout his signature homeless housing program. But it is important to know that it's been riddled with fraud. And in the 5 years that it's been in place, homelessness has actually gone up by 20%.
Holy shit.
In the meantime, this program has already spent close to $4 billion.
Oh my gosh.
And the whole idea is for the state to provide grants, and these grants are funded through state taxes and federal taxes, okay? Provide grants to local governments where they take the money and they use it to buy excess hotel buildings and motel buildings, basically commercial real estate. And the whole idea is to convert those properties into apartments or housing for the homeless. And the other idea is, well, since these buildings already exist, it'll be cheaper to have more housing available because you're not doing new construction, right? You're just converting these units to have kitchens and to ensure that they abide by both state and federal regulations. Those regulations stipulate that you must have a kitchen in every apartment unit, for instance. But here's what happened. Basically, there's all these developers involved and all these nonprofits involved. The idea sprung up during the COVID pandemic. And during the COVID pandemic, there was this real fear, it was a justified fear, that homeless individuals living in tight quarters, whether it's in shelters or homeless encampments, are going to spread the virus, and that risks their lives. So what the state did is they started renting out excess hotel and motel rooms on behalf of the homeless so they have a place to stay and shelter in place. A few months into that program, Gavin Newsom's like, you know what? I want this to be a permanent program, and instead of renting out rooms, why don't we just buy the buildings? It's way smarter to buy the buildings. It'll be cheaper, because think about how much it costs to stay in a hotel room each night, right? It's going to be more than what typical rent would be. So apparently he announces a few months into this Project Room Key program that he's now going to pivot to Project Home Key and make the program permanent. And this is where the real trouble starts to come in. So the state claims the program has created almost 16,000 permanent housing units, which isn't true, that will serve over 175,000 people. But since the state doesn't track outcomes, they don't, whether people placed in housing saw their lives improve or if they returned to the streets, the program's effectiveness is unclear, according to a critical 2024 state auditor's report. And despite spending close to $4 billion on the program, again, homelessness has increased by 20%. It's insane. We now have 181,000 homeless people in the state of California. And that's because this housing first model, it just isn't enough to deal with the complexities of homelessness. It's not simply people need a house.
No,
for this program,
it's the root cause. What is the root cause of homelessness? Because that's a Band-Aid.
We'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that.
But for this program, you said he wanted to buy the buildings and just, you know, running a hotel is not just owning the building. There's a lot that goes into running a hotel. You have to actually manage it and maintain the rooms and clean them out and do the changeover. The building doesn't do that by itself.
That's true, yeah.
What did he do? Did he actually buy the operating program?
No. So basically what he did after the pivot to Project Home Key, the permanent housing idea, and remember, he pitched it as permanent supportive housing, where people are going to get mental health care, because there are a lot of people out on the streets who are struggling with mental health issues, right? But here's the issue. He didn't provide any funding at all for the operations of the actual buildings or for the supportive part of the permanent supportive housing, meaning the actual mental health care, drug rehabilitation, anything like that.
For $4 billion, they could have just purchased homes and given them to people.
I know, but even that wouldn't be a solution.
No, it's not. I'm not suggesting it. I'm just saying at least I'm not trying to drill down on your report. But
No. Let me give you the details. Hold on.
Okay.
I know I'm taking forever to explain it. There's so much. So basically, local governments are tasked with paying for
of course,
the supportive housing part of it. And here's the issue. Local governments will contract out to nonprofits in order to carry out this work, and the nonprofits have been engaged in fraud. So there's like fraud at every step of the way. The local governments will contract the developers who are tasked with converting the housing units, and the developers themselves are engaging.
By the way, two of those developers were just arrested.
Federally indicted.
Right.
Yes.
For misusing $2 million for Amex expenses on luxury items and vacations.
Gosh. Yes.
And by the way, the $2 billion that Ana was talking about, that was just a slice of the $14 billion pie.
Of the buildings that have been purchased, or however far this gone, do you happen to know, or did they put out how many buildings have been purchased? I know it's easy to say.
They do put that out.
Okay, so
but they also lie about some stuff. So let me give you a few examples. Okay, specific examples. LA County, for instance, received more than $500 million, $550 million in home key funds between 2021 and 2024, which was used to acquire 32 buildings with 2,157 rooms. An investigation by Westside Current, that's like a local paper, found that 71% of the units remained vacant as of May 2025 due to construction delays. But you know what they do? They put out like press releases, making it appear as though these buildings, there's progress, these buildings are done, we now have all these housing units, but that's not true. On top of that, the city of LA severely overpaid for said properties. I'll give you a specific example on that. So in the city of LA, the Housing Authority used $48.9 million in home key money to acquire and complete a building that was under construction. So there was a developer chosen to do it. The building has 127 units, okay? But a similar project in the area would typically cost roughly $18.8 million, not $48.9.
This is why you don't want government engaging in what should be private enterprise. Like, let the private enterprise do the work.
So there was a markup of 165%. And the taxpayers are the ones who are getting bilked here.
And guess who's donating to whose campaign?
Exactly.
I'm very sure.
Just gonna go there. They're funding
Gavin Newsom. One of
people.
the biggest industries that fund Gavin Newsom is the real estate industry. He's getting his back scratched every step of the way.
Of course.
And guys, understand, it's not helping the homeless like that
at all.
We have more homeless people now.
Yeah.
Like the program not only hasn't worked, it not only has stolen money from taxpayers. It's not. I don't think it is.
Well, you can't get rid of the problem, because if you get rid of the problem, then you can't continue to fund the problem.
Exactly. The nonprofits aren't making money.
Yeah.
The developers aren't making money.
It's a homelessness industry.
Yes.
It's a cottage industry. And by the way, one of our most loyal viewers of Her Take, I'm not going to name names, but I love him to death. He loves us. He loves, he's such a huge fan of the show. He's a homeless man in California. And I thank him for being so upfront with me and just bearing his heart. I love you. You know that I do. And he is suffering right now.
Yeah.
Because his governor and the lawmakers in this state are so grossly mishandling the taxpayers' money. This is the money of hardworking Americans. He has done everything right. He's not on drugs. He's in perfect health. His mind is sharp as a tack. But, he just was dealt a hard...
Yeah, totally. And look, I think that the homelessness issue is a complex one. So people like him can definitely be helped with a program like this, where a housing unit is made available for him to get back on his own 2 feet and move on and become independent. But in California in particular, let's go to this graphic that talks about the prevalence of mental health illnesses and stuff like that. So there was a 2023 study that found that 66% of California's homeless population suffers from mental illness, 12% reported experiencing hallucinations, and 31% reported regular use of methamphetamines, and 11% non-prescribed opioids. When Roomkey was first launched at the start of the COVID pandemic, they were putting people who had severe addictions into these housing units, or at the time it was hotel rooms and motel rooms. And there were people who overdosed and died alone because their issue goes beyond just needing a place to stay. They need help with their addiction. So I just think this one size housing first,
but the worst
approach
part
is
of the
ridiculous.
drug distribution, also why it's given out so freely there, is because they have to decrease that population somehow. So that's why it's not very regulated. It's not very much controlled, because
You think they want people to overdose and die?
it's not that they want it, but they give you free will.
The Biden-Harris campaign was promoting putting vending machines on the streets of narcotics.
Absolutely.
I mean,
it's corporate Dorianism. So yeah, they would pretty much. It's not that they say it out loud, but they say,
They would never
well,
say it
they're
out
going
loud.
to. You never say it out loud, but they say, well, if they're not contributing to society, they're just a mess. They are addicted to these drugs.
Guys,
it's their will.
Guys, remember what Brian Kilmeade went viral for a couple months ago?
Yeah, that was awful.
Do you remember? I just want to give you guys a refresh. Do you remember what he said on
I'm not
Fox?
sure.
Yeah,
and Friends?
refresh your memory.
Actually, I'm generally a fan of Brian. Please don't kill me. I actually love you a lot. He said on Fox and Friends, he said the quiet part out loud. He said, if homeless people refuse to go into treatment, we should just kill them.
No,
I don't think we should kill them, but they do decide on their
what
own.
was that?
No, they need help.
What was
like
he
these
said?
are
We should
these
just
are human
inject- we
beings.
should
Like,
inject
But
them.
it comes to
That's
the point.
wrong.
Yeah, it comes
Either
to the
way.
point where there is no help because they are mentally ill. So it comes to the point where you say, well, we're funding these people that, essentially their essence is they're sick. So
we're not even funding them. We're not none of this is actually helping them. That's the problem.
Even if we came up with an answer right now on the show and said we've found the cure to homelessness, they're not going to implement it because they don't want it solved. They don't want it fixed. And that's the worst part about this. They're taking taxpayer dollars and shelling it out to people who eventually fund their campaigns, to people who support them, in all these different endeavors. And the people who pay the cost are the homeless.
There's a perfect analogy for this, and I see this every day because I'm in Pennsylvania. It's the prison complex as well. They need prisoners. They want the prisoner. They want the pipeline. They want the criminals to keep going because that's how they make
Pennsylvania?
money. Absolutely.
Yes. In Philly especially.
They got to keep their prisons. We used to.
But wasn't it the opposite issue with the progressive DA and all of that, who doesn't want to actually prosecute for real?
No, that's a cover up.
Really? You think
it's
so?
like it's just
There's
like
a lot of
the
people-
two things can be true.
Well, let's just put it like this. The data shows that in the market, people were buying and investing a lot into for-profit prisons. Okay, and this is when Trump
They make
in his
so
second
much
presidency,
money.
they make tons of money. So it makes sense, immigration and all these things contribute to for-profit prisons, and people were investing heavily.
Yeah,
you saw the market go up.
Yeah, racism isn't just the only driver of mass incarceration. It's also
Profits.
money.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree with you on that. California is different, though. California closed 5 of their state prisons. So they went all in on the so-called criminal justice reform, even though, in my opinion, actual criminal justice reform is reforming policing and reforming the actual prisons, so they're not torture chambers, and actually rehabilitate people so they can get out and actually be productive members of society.
I have to take the conservative attack on this because I feel like I like you so much that I want to agree, but I also just want to give viewers a very honest accounting of my views, and that is there's also been a study that says the vast majority of violent crimes are committed by a very small segment of the population.
Yeah, you're right about
and
that.
some people are just incorrigible.
I know, but that's not what I'm talking about. Right now I'm talking about 5 prisons shutting down under this idea that we just release people and it'll be fine, but it hasn't been fine, actually.
We're probably aligned on that.
Yeah, no, we are aligned on this. In fact, this is one of the issues where the left gets really angry at me because they want to live in this weird magical thinking world where no, there's actually no criminals, and the real problem is putting them in prison. No, some people do need to be put in prison. The question is, what are the conditions in these prisons? Is it just meant to punish people, or is it meant to rehabilitate them so they can actually come out and be productive members of society? And in fact, one prison in the state of California has been reformed to do that, and it's shown incredible results. But I thought criminal justice reform was supposed to be that. Unfortunately, the way it's been implemented in states like California overall, with the exclusion of that one prison, has been pretty disastrous because it's just been, let's just shut down the prisons because we have a mass incarceration issue. Yeah.
And they're also trying to appeal to a particular base.
Yeah, absolutely. Defund the police.
That's absolutely true.
Just I call it suicidal empathy. I think Gad
Yes, that's a good way.
That.
Yeah.
I'm just done with that. I care about keeping the American people safe.
So all of it's wrapped around the axle so much that it doesn't make sense. But it's gone full circle to the point where every governmental issue is now being weighed through a political lens, which used to work. The first time you wrap around the axle, it's fine because you want the votes, because you're doing the right thing, because you're helping people. But when you weigh in all of these other factors, whether it's your donors, whether it's the voting base, whether it's the demographics, whether it's the polling, whatever it is, suddenly that taints the way you actually make the decisions in government.
Absolutely. And you're also just auditioning for a select group of top donors. For example, George Soros 100%. Has been funding leftist DAs around the country.
In a lot of places, I think they actually do want the unrest, particularly under a Trump administration, because they know that he has a hard stance on crime.
And Kamala
they know he's going to come out and they're going to go, look he's authoritarian because he's actually trying to crack down on crime and shut things down. So it's all.
This isn't even conjecture. It's fact. You're totally right. Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, and that whole gang. They were saying, go out there, fight for your rights. And
well, one other thing that I'll mention, the ACLU came up in this episode, and right now the ACLU is fighting pretty aggressively to prevent a law that mandates people who have decided to drink and drive, right, and got caught. And
Justin Timberlake.
Sure, that's an example. Lots of celebrities have gotten caught drinking and driving, but nonetheless, one of the punishments is the court will mandate that you put that device in your vehicle where you have to blow into it, and only if your blood alcohol level is non-existent or low enough will the car start.
Wow.
And the ACLU is fighting to prevent that because they think it's unfair that people aren't going to have the money to
murder
do it.
people on the streets accidentally.
I mean, but I don't like the permissiveness of what we're seeing in some factions of the left, because there are definitely people on the left who are more
in
on
this
our side
day and age when we have Waymo, Lyft, Uber, there's no excuse
I agree. I totally
to drink and drive. So
you're risking
frankly,
other people's lives when you do that.
Exactly.
That's unacceptable.
And it's so deeply selfish. And if you've already done it once, I don't care. You should have a little device in your car.
I agree.
I'm not saying like everyone should have it preemptively, but if you've shown that you don't have,
I wouldn't like that. That's
Yeah,
not fair.
But there's
I'm
been
just
so
saying,
much-
like, if you already did this once, if you were so careless and reckless with other human lives,
I agree.
you should have a little whatever thing.
And eventually we won't have to worry about this because there's been so much information that has surfaced that it's going to come to a point where our technology is we're not going to have to drive. Cars are just going to drive
I know
themselves.
Anna doesn't like the self-driving.
I
I like
the
driving.
self-drive. I want to get a car.
After
from
you
like
guys-
Well, it's actually
1980s.
more intelligent.
That's my dream
It's more
car.
intelligent.
No microchips. No, I don't care if it doesn't have AC.
I love driving. I don't like traffic, but I love
Just
driving.
imagine how distracted we're humans. So we get sleepy, we get moody, we get distracted on
But
our
it's still
phones
a
or
freedom. It's
but
freedom,
technology,
too.
yes, of course.
I have taken myself off the roads permanently for life, and I've done a service to the United States.
Yeah.
You don't want to see me behind the wheel. I actually ended up in a ditch one time, and the car was vertical. It was 90
my
degrees. I kid you not.
You need the car to drive you for sure.
It was just really bad. It was very bad. So anyway.
So final thing that I'll just mention, because we just very briefly touched on it, but I want to give more detail into the 2 federal indictments that were passed down by Bill Asaley, Assistant U.S. Attorney for the state of California. So what's frustrating about this is the California Attorney General had filed a lawsuit against Shangri-La, which is one of the developers that was caught engaging in fraud. So their CFO, Cody Holmes, had siphoned off $2 million to basically just pay his credit card and $46,000 a month on a Beverly Hills mansion. Yeah, that's taxpayer money that he stole. And by the way, Shangri-La as a developer was given grants to convert 7 different properties into homeless housing. 5 of them went into foreclosure. 2 of them they managed to complete. But long story short, we spent a ton of money. We gave them a ton of money in order to do this job. And not only did they fail in that mission, they've also basically pocketed. Cody Holmes allegedly has stolen the money. Now he's facing trial over this. We'll see how that all plays out. But another example that I want to give you, by the way, Shangri-La, that one developer was given a total of $117 million in grants, funded state and federal. Funded through state and federal taxes.
I want Gavin Newsom to wear a shirt of all of these real estate developers who are funding him. So
I know.
Can see.
But there's one more. This one is so wild. This is so crazy. So then there was the case of this landlord by the name of Jared Taylor. He's the other one who's facing a federal indictment. Here, and by the way, why did it take the Trump administration's DOJ to do this?
Right.
Because
this
Gavin
has been going on
Newsom
for
was
years.
the
Because the
biggest
state of
surrogate for
California is
Biden.
not going to enforce it because the politicians in office
Well,
are
it's gonna work
benefiting
against
from it.
them. Right, it's going to work.
Well, I mean, Gavin Newsom was sucking up to Biden every single day out there, saying that there's nothing wrong with him, and so he reaped the benefits.
So in the second case, there was it's called the Weingard Center Association. It's one of these homeless service providers. They were using $27.3 million in home key grants to purchase a 76-unit senior living complex in LA, which they plan to convert into housing units, right? But federal prosecutors say the deal was shady and shrouded in secrecy. Stephen Taylor, the real estate developer who sold the property to the Weingart Center, used fake bank statements to obtain loans and credit to buy the property for $11.2 million just months before flipping it for $16.1 million. Okay, so he marked it up. He didn't do any renovations. He didn't do any conversions on the property. He basically bought it and immediately flipped it. And what's even more insane is that Mayor Karen Bass, because this is in Los Angeles, so it's under her jurisdiction, totally agreed to the terms of the contract, which stipulated that Jared Taylor would remain anonymous, like he wouldn't be publicly revealed, because if he was publicly revealed, everyone would know he did this flip, he did this insane markup and ripped off the taxpayers.
So the question then becomes,
How much did he donate to his?
Well, that's the next
That
question.
is-
But what did she know and when did she know it?
Exactly.
Same with him, because if they're all aware that this is going on and maybe he donates, $3 million to her campaign or whatever it is,
I would bet
track it.
I would bet like $50,000 he donated to her campaign. or through some, you know,
well, of course,
individual.
before and after her future campaign, whatever she's going to be running in the future.
So everyone's getting screwed here. The homeless are getting screwed. The taxpayers are getting screwed. The only people who are coming out golden are the developers, the nonprofits, and the politicians who get to run on this and make themselves seem like these angelic politicians who are really getting things done, because the media is not paying attention to this.
Well, I think that's very aligned with California. That's their style.
And I
very much your style.
I think that media knows, but they have a vested interest in electing Gavin.
They think Gavin Newsom's the leader of the opposition, who has the best shot at beating the Republican in the next presidential race. And this is my warning to Democrats. There are cops on the beat who are paying attention to this. I don't like the fact that taxpayers, both on a federal level and a state level, have been ripped off. I don't like the fact that homelessness has gotten worse and people are still suffering. This is not the mark of a leader. This is a used car salesman, snake oil salesman, and find a better candidate.
And what's so disturbing about all of this with Gavin Newsom and the nonprofit role and all of that, we're seeing it happen all over the place. It's very similar, not the same thing, but it's similar to what's happening in Minnesota and what we saw down in Georgia. I mean, it is the game plan of fundraising off of federal grants gone to nonprofits that then fund campaigns.
Yes.
And we're seeing it all over the country, and we're supposed to pretend like it's normal or pretend like it's acceptable, and it's not, because to your point that you just made, the people that lose are the American people, the people that actually needed the money. Or why are we paying those taxes in the first place? Just let us keep our own money and then we wouldn't need all your stupid programs.
That's right. There's actually something called the corruption tax. It's not a real tax, but it's actually there. We pay more than we need to because of the corruption that politicians engage in.
I mean,
Because
we
of
pay
money.
high taxes, like we do. Like
It's insanely high.
for all the crap
In a
we hear
utopian
about.
world, it sounds very nice on paper to say ideally, you know, the people, we need to look out for the people. But since when has a big corporation or a politician ever really relied on the people for
Or cared about protecting or helping
So
the people?
really, their partnerships, you know, who are their alliances? Who is funding all of this? They're going to end up winning.
Yeah.
The way it always is, you know. And unfortunately, the people that actually do need it, what this whole cause is about, the homeless, they're not going to see very much of that
And there's
money.
one last thing.
And the problem's going to continue to escalate. It's just going to increase.
Final thing I'll say on this, and then we got to move on. Newsom sees this as a national model. So that's why I think this is relevant for everyone who's watching, regardless of where you live in the United States. He's going to run on this. He sees this as a national model. There's a lot of BS out there about how it's working, when in reality it's not. We already have 2 federal criminal indictments related to this program. And homelessness has increased by 20% since this program has been in place.
Have we heard anything about maybe even New York kind of taking that, like adopting that motto as well?
I'm not sure about
because
New
their
York.
homelessness is also pretty much
It's
out
also-
there, and
also
they're
off the
very
charts.
parallel.
They have a right to shelter law there that LA does not have, or I should say California does not have. And they have more shelters, right? Whereas California, at least the current political leadership, has sworn off shelters. They think it's cruel or something, and want to basically provide an apartment for every
Buy a
single homeless
hotel
person.
that doesn't function.
So out there.
One last thing. I call it the unholy trinity of Gavin Newsom. You have the homelessness, which is a complete shambles, and also the speed rail that went nowhere.
Oh my God.
It's basically like a hunk in the middle of California.
Disastrous.
And number 3, the rebuilding after the fires. What has been rebuilt? Tell me.
Nothing.
Like nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Absolutely
you're right.
zero.
Nothing.
So if you guys want more detail on this story, just check out the piece over at Real Clear Investigations. It's worth the read. So let's move on to something entirely different, and that's the Trump Gold Card. That's getting a lot of attention, and I'm really curious what you ladies think about it. So President Donald Trump has officially launched what he calls the Trump Gold Card. It's a new visa program for investors who want to come here to the United States. So essentially buy your way toward U.S. citizenship. So Trump says it's like a green card with better privileges and a stronger path to citizenship. According to its website, the Trump Gold Card is a visa that is based upon an individual's ability to provide a substantial benefit to the United States. In order to apply, interested applicants are required to pay a $15,000 non-refundable processing fee to get things started on their application. Once a person is approved, they are required to make a $1 million gift to the U.S. So Howard Lutnick says that the money would go to the U.S. Treasury. Now, according to Lutnick, there is no cap on the number of gold cards given to people, which is really interesting. And there is also a Trump Platinum card that's still in the works, so we don't know all the details about that. But before we get to the other cards, I want to start with you. What do you think about this?
I don't love it. I don't hate it. I have other issues with the immigration system that I would like to see corrected first. Those are harder to correct because they require congressional action. This obviously does not. I don't personally see how it necessarily benefits the American people.
Right.
I understand the money is going into the Treasury. It's never going to come to me.
Right.
So this is one where I just kind of,
Yeah, I don't like this. Look, there are stories and reports out about how basically people are buying presidential pardons.
Yeah.
And I don't like that our government is for sale like this.
Right. Yeah.
And so if we're going to have a real conversation about our immigration system, how are you going to make all these like exceptions for certain forms of immigration, right? Whether it's the Chinese students, what was it, 100,000 Chinese students to come here in the United States?
I actually think it was 300,000.
300,000? Okay, like I just think the inconsistencies
Laura
here
Ingraham was
are
right about this.
fascinating. Yeah.
Trump's interview. We should be prioritizing American citizens over Chinese students. There's not a doubt. I mean,
yeah, I completely
for lack
agree.
of a better word.
And I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just. I was gonna say it is 600,000.
600,000?
Wait, that's even wow.
That's twice what you said. Yes.
That's wild.
But
okay?
I think no, it's a lot. This also opens the door to what we've all been complaining about is financial manipulation.
Yes.
Like, get the money out of it.
Yes.
Like, just get the money out of it. Just do the normal process. Everybody can wait in line.
So this
we'll
is
run across the border.
I have to have a come to Jesus moment, and this is the reason why people like Nick Fuentes has become so increasingly popular. Nick Fuentes is somebody who was America first. He was so gung-ho about Trump in 2016, one of his biggest fans. Now he's a vocal critic. Because he sees all these financial shenanigans going on.
You don't even have to go to Nick Fuentes. I mean,
I love
large
President
swaths,
Trump.
large swaths of MAGA
I
base
would
are
have
against
to
this.
disagree with you, ladies. I'm going to be the one to
Okay.
So the way that I think is, well, if we're going to have immigrants come in anyways, we're just not going to charge them for it.
But why is that a
versus-
given?
No.
Well, no, because if they have the money for it, I mean, he emphasized.
But why is it a
wealthy.
given that we're going to have immigrants come in?
No,
right?
it's not a given. But if you do want to come to this country and you have the money for it, and Trump is stating that as a condition, why not? $1 million.
I think
from
we've got
each
enough
person.
stanky ass billionaires in this country that are like basically throwing their weight around, taking total control of our government at the detriment of the American
people. It hurts.
Yeah.
It could potentially hurt the American
By the
people.
way,
true, yes.
I have to, again, be intellectually honest. If I had to choose between a very impoverished immigrant and one with $1 million, I would take the one with $1 million not because so much about the money, it's about the underlying values that have driven that acquisition of wealth.
Absolutely. It's just the quality.
That was tenacity.
I think you're making a lot of assumptions, though. There are a lot of people in foreign countries who make their wealth in shady ways. Okay, you're making an assumption that they like worked hard, and it's like the American way.
I think there's a much higher probability that they actually have the high skills.
Or they have the mental
There's
capacity.
corporate cards too, so corporations can do. Like, there's. No, I'm not trying to jump ahead.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
this gimmick is a good idea. I'm just saying if I had to choose.
Same.
All right, guys. Ceteris paribus, and it's all things being equal in Latin. One person has $0 and one has $1 million.
That is
I want the one. It just seems logical.
That is how my mind works.
I'm not saying inherently this program is good. I'm just saying that I would rather have the wealthy immigrant than the poor one.
I'd rather have the one that's coming in and bringing in the funds than the one that's coming in and using up the government's funds, which is everything that we've been discussing today. Immigrants coming in, they're just utilizing all our resources, taking everything we have, not contributing anything.
I think we're simplifying. I think we're
substantially.
simplifying this and treating it as a binary that doesn't actually exist, right? It's not a binary. Okay, so for instance, there are a lot of people who were born and raised in impoverished countries, who are super intelligent, who might be poor, yes, but are brilliant minds and would actually be. Hold on,
please.
Yes,
let
I
me just
agree.
finish the point. Who would actually be a benefit to the U.S. Right? There are also incredibly wealthy foreigners who might have. I mean, just.
I agree with that.
I mean, think about Saudi Arabia, for instance, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
Think about
Like,
Saudi
that's who's
Arabia.
gonna-
No, Anna, I agree with that.
It's like.
But I said ceteris paribus, which means that I didn't account for the skills. We have a really impoverished person who has You know, they're incredibly hardworking.
But also,
that's the
they
H-1B
hustle
program that America First folks also have a problem
I know,
with.
but I was going to jump in on that too, because I do think that program is abused by
100%,
corporate interests.
1,000%.
And if the idea is, oh, Americans aren't skilled enough to hire, well, then that is a problem. I don't believe it, number one. But even if that were true, okay, then let's train up Americans. Why don't we invest in Americans?
Because we're bringing in 600,000 Chinese students. That's why.
Yeah, and that I'm
Well, and that's
totally.
the problem.
I don't have anything
exactly.
against Chinese foreigners. Okay, I want to be clear about that. But it's unfair to
It ends
young
up-
people in this country.
It ends up undercutting the wages for Americans
yes.
because you can hire foreigners at a cheaper wage.
Yes.
H-1B program allows you to hire them at a wage that you could not hire Americans, and they're saying, oh, well, they're skilled in the way that Americans aren't skilled. But it's not true.
$100,000 a year on an annual basis for a company like Google or
It's not
Meta,
gonna matter.
it's like
No.
something they can find under their coffee cup. one day.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just
Absolutely.
like totally nothing. Trump knows what he's doing.
Yes.
He knows where his bread is buttered.
Yeah.
It's by the people sitting in front of everyone at the inauguration. It's the
Well, to be
Metas.
fair, it's both sides, right? I mean, you raised it a lot on the you were a loud voice on the Democrat side with it. If we look back at 2020, who were the big billionaires that folks like me were upset about? It was the Mark Zuckerbergs. It was the Googles. It was the people that we're talking about who had a front row seat to President Trump's inauguration. It plays on both sides.
People like Mark Zuckerberg, they don't have an ideology. Well, actually, their only ideology is how do I make a shit ton of money.
and
They
that's,
just care about money.
And I
Right.
think that's
Right.
Anna's point.
Yeah, that is my point, right? Like, this isn't a program that's meant to, first of all, it flies in the face of everything Trump campaigned on, number one. And number two, this isn't really about reforming our immigration system in a way that's beneficial for Americans. This is about doing favors for your donors, doing favors for corporate interests, and also putting his
even if
face
it's
on
not,
a card.
let's assume best case scenario, this really is intended for the purity of bringing high dollar individuals to America. It's not benefiting the current Americans who live here now.
Yeah, exactly.
But what is the essence of Trump? Who is he? He's a businessman,
Con
a
man.
shrewd businessman. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we should not be surprised that he is charging versus not charging to become an American citizen. It's not
But
shocking at
I
all.
just also want to.
No, it's not
very
Hold on a
shocking.
second.
It's just
Hold
whether
on a
you agree
second.
with it or not.
Yeah.
Every single time you create a gimmick like this, you give an opportunity for corruption. For example, the ballroom that he's building right now is going to cost at least $150 million, if not $300 million.
But it's privately funded, right?
It's privately funded, but isn't that glorious, though? It allows all of his donors to come and give money. And one of the biggest donors is Jeff Yass, the wealthiest man in Pennsylvania, who's one of the biggest investors of TikTok, who got Trump to change his mind on TikTok. I know because he lives down the street from my parents. And so every time you create these opportunities, there's more graft and corruption.
Which I think is part of my frustration with it. Like I said, I don't love it. I don't hate it. I see the problems with it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
just to get into the other cards, I mentioned the Trump Platinum card, which is still in the works. The Trump Platinum card, which has not yet been launched and requires interested people to join a wait list, allows for future applicants to live in the U.S. for 270 days per year without being subject to tax on non-U.S. income. Like the gold card, applicants must pay a $15,000 processing fee and undergo DHS vetting. So you might make the argument that, okay, well, they're making their money
It's foreign income.
as foreign income. I used to not believe in slippery slope arguments, but living in California, I believe in slippery slope arguments. Slippery slopes definitely do exist, and I don't like this idea of, creating programs that exempt people from paying taxes while they're living.
People
in
who
the
have
US.
enough to drop $1 million.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, say what you want about Trump. He's really good at this marketing stuff. He's going to slap his face and mug on everything he can find.
I don't have a problem with him calling it the Trump card. It's very Trumpian.
No, this is not a
I don't care
criticism.
about that
this is
part
an
at all.
observation.
Yeah, okay.
It's actually kind of genius. People say that there's some liberals who say that Trump is dumb. He's actually not. He's a
No, he's
marketing
not at all.
genius.
Yes,
he is.
This guy is. And he also started something called the Trump bonds. You heard about that? It's a way to help kids pay for college. So basically, it's like
They're born and then
they're
they get
born with it. They get $1,000.
And it's tax deferred.
And Michael
It should be tax-free,
Michael
though,
Dell and his wife funded this as well. So kids get $1,000 upon birth, and you put it in the stock market, and by the time they're like 18 or whatever, it can help to pay for college. I think that's a good idea. That's the sort of initiative that
I hope it
would
actually
applaud.
comes to fruition.
Yeah,
It's
I hope it works
Yeah.
the way it's marketed toward.
That's exactly. I mean, now you've
Always,
Yeah.
that's always the,
Yeah, it's good to have that skeptical mind because Just like the Project Home Key program in California, it sounds good on paper.
Right.
The way it's executed, the devil is in the details, right? That's
well, in general, that's a definition of politics. It sounds
And
good
is
on
all,
paper.
are all of the accounts being driven to certain stocks? Like, who's controlling the stocks for those accounts? I mean,
And
you're going to be talking about millions of billions
But this is
of
why
monies.
he's track the S&P 500, which is
Yeah, this is
I
why
know.
he's so intelligent also, because he made it he mentioned and emphasized a tax-deferred account. So what does that mean? Those are like a 401ks, you know, your 403, you know, so the market drops, you lose a shit ton of money because that money is going to go to the government. That's what that is. So it's not a tax-free account, it's a tax-deferred.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, we're helping you, but not really helping you.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, a tax-deferred.
No, I understand. I used to be an
So
investment banker, but I'm just saying that this is an 18-year period, though.
Yeah, but that's okay. You still lose.
Because at the end of the day, it's still going to be more than $1,000.
Oh, of course. You're going to obviously have more than $1,000,
Yeah,
but every
so
so often when there's a market crash.
But they don't care. These people
Yeah,
are...
of course.
It's not their money. They're playing with monopoly money.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that he's very smart in the way, you know, he's like, it's a tax deferred that we're going to get and not a tax free.
I'm just saying no matter what these...
Because they
kids are
do
gonna be better
exist
off.
also, you know.
Yeah,
Because
so.
over the course of 18 years, it's going to be more than $1,000.
Yeah, of course, of
So
course.
that's...
And look,
I don't want our
those
viewers to think that...
tax-deferred programs or accounts do come in handy.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Well, it's versus having nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If the program works the way they say it's going to work, I think it's going to be amazing.
This
I think it's great.
We have to be fair to Trump. This is, I think, is a good idea. Any sort of program that brings down the cost of higher education. There's another thing that he's doing that I really like, and that's going to the harder the problem. I know this is kind of veering in a different direction, but asking universities, do you really need to charge?
I wish
an
he were
additional-
harder on the university.
But he's saying
on
like,
tuition
do you-
and how much
do
they're
you
charging
need-
these students.
Do you need another
Totally.
gym? Do you need another $300?
They don't.
Right.
They don't. Yeah.
You don't need to be spending another like $1 million poaching the best coach.
He's
Like,
been great. He's the best president we've had on this in a long time, and I still wish he'd go further.
Yeah. And look, I mean, markets do tend to adjust on their own as well, and enrollment at these universities is down significantly because who the hell wants to be in a massive hole as they're starting their lives, right? $150,000, $200,000 in debt just to get a college degree.
Correct. And start off making 85 grand a year.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
And I
mean,
think
so
this
many-
actually ties in perfectly with the next topic, though.
Take it away.
I love it when it segues so seamlessly. It rarely does, and I'm known to be clunky about it, but this is actually smooth. I'm a smooth operator today, guys.
Let's do it.
But why spend 4 years at a college when the AI revolution is accelerating and the skills you're going to learn as a sociology major or a arts history major, they're going to be deeply obsolete.
Yeah.
And in recent days, there's been a lot of coverage around the potential threat that AI poses to the American people and also to the world at large. Actually, one of the architects of AI, they even said there's a 50% chance that humanity might be exterminated and that we have to be nice to our AI overlords because we don't
How about
wanna
no?
offend them.
How
Yeah,
about
exactly.
we
not
don't let
do
that happen?
Yeah. And this goes back to something, a great segment that you did a couple of episodes back about the state and federal clash of AI regulation. Trump is basically saying we shouldn't have a patchwork of 50 different states regulating AI. We should do it from the federal level. But the problem is he's not doing it at the federal level because he's listening to his tech oligarchs.
Yeah.
He's not regulating it. And his reason is, he has a reason for it, though.
Yeah.
He's like, if we can't hamper ourselves. We can't disarm unilaterally because China is...
That is the arms race, right? This is the
I'm not
nuclear
buying it
arms
at
race
all.
of our generation.
I'm not buying it.
Well, I do think that it's valid in that
If you're
somebody's
allowing
gonna
NVIDIA
build
to
it-
sell the super complex semiconductor chips to China, who's supposed to be our big adversary,
Yeah,
China's
I'm not buying the argument that, we got to beat China in AI.
Oh, no, I don't. I agree with you in the sense that
Yeah.
I don't think it's a valid reason for us to be making our decisions.
Right.
But I do think it's a valid threat that needs to be considered in making the decision. The AI, the push for sentient AI, to me, the biggest concern is it's being done by a handful of very wealthy, powerful individuals at the top, and none of us, not just us, but the
public
American
at
people,
large.
the world population has no say in it. And I do think it's accurate. You know, I'm sure we've all heard the same experts talking about it, saying there's at least 50-50. I've heard higher than that as well, that we're not going to be able to control it once it becomes sentient. Once it becomes sentient and it can think for itself and it doesn't need any human intervention, and we can't intervene anymore. At that point, whoever controls it, whoever built it, is maybe at best in control. At worst, nobody's in control, and it's just out there.
It all depends on the programming, and the programmer is the human. So it all depends on the mentality and obviously the software of the human.
But once it becomes sentient, it does it itself. It no longer is relying on any human input.
Right, but who programmed it essentially?
The tech oligarchs, basically.
Correct. So it all depends on, we always have the control based on the program.
These are the very people saying that we may not have the control. So you're saying that the people...
The creators of the AI.
You have the
fathers
control.
of AI are saying that this might leave our hands.
You have the control until it becomes sentient.
Exactly. They're saying that it might achieve something called escape velocity, and we will no longer be able to control it.
Like you're seeing studies where in these programming games where they're gaming it out is they end up killing, not in real life, but in the program, killing off the person because they're like, oh, you're restricting my ability.
There's
to do
something
it's happening.
Thank you for bringing that up. And you evoke a eerie historical parallel, and it reminds me of the father of the nuclear bomb, Robert J. Oppenheimer. I actually think it's J. Robert Oppenheimer. I'm really sorry. Sorry, it's been a long day. Again, I have not sleep. I tend to do these things without sleep. Yeah. He deeply regretted the creation of the nuclear bomb. And he was one of the most fervent opponents, or actually advocates for nuclear regulation. But the politicians just wouldn't listen.
Right.
And I fear that we are hurtling towards a similar end. And even to this day, what year is it now? 2025? It's the same old story. Russia and the United States are still negotiating something called the START Treaty, which regulates the nuclear regime, the international nuclear regime. And I feel like we're going to do the same thing for AI. Everyone needs to be on the same page.
It's incredibly dangerous. And the problem is not only are we not on the same page, I believe there are groups who are actively not on the same page, meaning they don't even want to get on the same page.
You know what this problem is? It's a problem of the Nash equilibrium. It's a game theory problem. It's like a collective action problem.
Yes.
China doesn't want to be like, we're going to unilaterally disarm. America doesn't want to be either. We need to get together and actually engage, but no one's going to be the first one because no one wants to be caught.
And everybody wants to be the first one in the hopes that they control it, recognizing that there's a very, very small possibility that they actually will control it, that once it's created, nobody controls it.
Which is why, I'm obviously of Chinese descent, but I'm deeply opposed to the Chinese communist regime. And selling the H200 chips to China that NVIDIA makes was such a terrible mistake.
Why did he make that decision?
Because it juices the profits. I'm sure it helps Jensen Huang.
So
I actually financially benefit from this, but I don't give a fuck because I care more about the American people. I love my country. You know, it doesn't behoove me to have like an extra whatever dollars. I'd rather have a stronger country. And you know what China's going to do? Or any country's going to do? They're going to reverse engineer it and figure out how to make their chips on their own.
Right. Okay, so this is the most annoying part about all of this, right? So the arms race with China is used as the excuse for why the American people have to get shafted when it comes to AI, right? But then at the same time, you have the Trump administration
shafting us
by allowing for the sale of those chips. Hold on, let me finish my point. So the sale of those chips. And the idea is, well, if the U.S. floods the Chinese market with the American-made chips, well, we'll dominate. But no, China's not stupid. They're going to reverse engineer it. They're going to develop their own.
They're very, very intelligent.
They're very intelligent, very strategic.
And there's another counter argument, and I don't actually.
And they're so subtle about it too, which makes them so Machiavellian. It's like,
wait, you don't have to get racially charged.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry. I hate the CCP, but I'm also of Chinese descent. I don't think I'm like.
They do have something that I think gives China an edge over the United States.
It's a century of humiliation.
It's patience.
They're
allowing the U.S. to bleed outright.
But they're so successful in their approach.
Just to give you some historical context, the century of humiliation
very, very wise.
Started around the time of the Opium War when, I don't know if you guys even know this, Great Britain got almost all of China hooked on opium. And the Chinese...
I'm sorry.
No, opium.
I know. I'm sorry. I was
the
comparing it to
the U.S.
Today. Yeah,
I guess is China having its revenge.
I didn't mean to throw you off. I'm sorry.
But basically, and then they went through the Cultural Revolution. China sees this as its time to reemerge on the national stage, international stage. So here's the counter argument to what we were just saying. I actually don't agree with this at all, but I do want to make sure that people have both sides of the argument. The H200 NVIDIA semiconductor chips are a previous generation of NVIDIA. It's actually an older generation. The newest generation is called Blackwell, and those will not be sold to China.
They're working on it, though.
But Trump is saying, if Trump is not lying to us, he's saying that we're not going to sell those chips to China.
I hope
I'm just saying we shouldn't be
right.
selling. This isn't my point of view. I'm just saying that that's their point of view. Exactly. I just think we should be extremely careful. We were unable to keep the genie in the bottle when it came to the atomic bomb.
Right.
And that really undermined us. I don't want us to be making the same mistake. We should make sure that we safely cherish and safeguard American intellectual property.
So I totally agree with you, but it's the
would that work? Would that work? Like shooting the robots that like the same sentient?
Well, we have more guns than people in this country.
But I mean, think of everything that's automated electronically, whether it's the internet, whether it's your thermostat at your house, whether it's the water that's pumped through the city, like all of it. It's also the AI then controls all of that, so they don't have to come and physically kill us. They can shut off our water supply. They can shut, they can shut off so much of how we actually live.
Right.
Well, but it's all through AI, right? If the AI controls it and decides among, assuming this is sentient AI, and decides amongst itself that it wants to depopulate. I'm talking like
Christina, you remind me of something else. If you told me 10 years ago that I would say that the safest way to transmit information would be through a floppy disk, I wouldn't believe you. But that's actually the truth.
I don't store anything in the cloud.
No, and you can go car shopping with me and Anna when we go look for a 1980 Chevy.
We be vibing, girl. We don't trust anything.
No.
Everything's hackable.
No, I'm not using chips.
But this really kind of boils down to, I think, the main point, which is, why do we need this? Like, is it actually going to make our lives better? And it seems like so far the balance is on the doesn't make life better.
It's always a catch-22.
It could. It absolutely could. It could be an incredible, merge into a new era. I think that absolutely is a possibility. The problem that I see, the problem with it is when you mix it with governments and you mix in the time factor, because everybody wants to be first. When you go too fast on something
and you don't regulate it,
and you don't regulate it, and you don't ensure that we're doing it that way, that's the concern for me. Where I'm like, wait, everyone's racing to this. It can be done, and I'm all for it.
But I think that they've also slowed it down a bit, because there was a phase where it was going full speed.
Who?
Our government was.
Well, whether it's us or China or it's not just.
Well,
this is not
have you heard of the Moore's Law? Have you heard about the Moore's Law? So basically, a semiconductor chip can decrease by size by 100% every iteration, and it gets harder and harder to do so. And that's why the newest update of ChatGPT actually turned out to be really shitty, and everyone got pissed off. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was, people were up in arms.
But this is why they're also going very slow with supercomputers, because they're like, when we get to the point, I mean, a supercomputer can literally just do whatever it wants in like nanoseconds. This is another thing that,
I don't think they're going slow with it, though.
There's something else I got to bring up because
they're pacing themselves.
Because aside from how this technology will interact with human beings, once it becomes even more complex and it evolves, I guess, or devolves for us. There's also the issue of data centers. And so that's already impacting local communities all across the country because it takes these massive data centers, which requires a lot of energy.
And water.
And so I'm starting to see reports from like local governments and also from people living in those areas where like they turn on the tap and there's no water.
Well, they're taking it to space. That's why they're exploring to have data centers up in space, because it's going to get to the point where on Earth, it's not going to be able to.
No, we can't. I mean, the power grid, our infrastructure really needs a lot of work, period. But our infrastructure can't sustain this.
You bring up, this is actually a really critical point. Yeah. Microsoft actually is trying to buy the property on 3 Mile Island. Do you guys remember what happened there? The huge nuclear disaster a couple of decades ago? Mm-hmm. They're trying to, I live in Pennsylvania. It's a couple of hours from me. But these tech companies are so desperate for energy that they're revitalizing broken down nuclear facilities. Mm-hmm. I actually think that we should. I think we should. Exploring nuclear energy is worthwhile, especially given the enormous damage that AI is going to do to our environment in coming years.
We have to lean on nuclear. Like, what are we even talking about right now? Okay, renewable energy is not enough to power or provide the power that we need, number one.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, if you care about climate change and you're worried about it, the idea that you don't support nuclear energy, which is literally the cleanest form of energy,
well, first you have to
by the way,
program the minds of the people that don't believe in climate change.
It's not even.
Which is a lot of the conservative side too.
No, I think a lot of conservatives actually do believe in climate change. They don't like the idea that climate change is a personal issue and you have to change your personal behavior.
Or that it's an immediate threat to me as an individual.
Taking a page out of Trump's book, no one does marketing better than Donald Trump. No one does. I have learned to. The environment is such an important issue to me. It's so close to my heart. But I've learned that talking about climate change is not effective. It's just not.
No, it's not.
As soon as you say those two words, conservatives tune you out.
Yes.
So what I've learned to do is to talk about, go back to the roots, go back to what Theodore Roosevelt did with our national parks, with Yosemite. Go back to Richard Nixon in the 1970s and talk about how he created the Environmental Protection Agency, how he passed the Clean Air and Water Act. Go back to Ronald Reagan.
Just don't annoy the American public with non-solutions like, paper straws and banning plastic bags. That's not going to do anything.
Wait, hold on, I have to finish. Because at the heart of conservatism is conserving.
Well, a lot of them are conservationists. Exactly. A lot of them are hunters, and they want to preserve the wildlife population in the ecosystem. So a lot of us care.
Yes, why I just talked about this, because this is the framework that actually works. I know, because I've been trying for the past year to get my new friends to really care about this. I've tried really hard to embrace a conservative agenda, but I have to say, what Trump is doing on environment, it makes me cry. It makes me, it shatters me.
I'm very aligned.
And thank you. Thank you. I thank you.
At heart, I'm an environmentalist.
Thank you.
Totally.
Yeah. Thank you. Wait, hold on. What he's doing,
but very pro-technology also.
What he's doing by reopening drilling off the shores of California and Florida, it's so wrong.
Yeah.
It's so wrong. It's so destructive
because there's so many methods. There's so many other options that we need to be exploring.
The Horizon,
there's so many things.
Horizon oil spill, and what happened, the BP oil spill. These were disasters that not only devastated the economy, it also cost lives. It destroyed wildlife. It scarred the face of American, the landscape forever. It's a price that we can no longer afford to pay.
Are you guys watching that new show, Landman?
No.
It's so good.
I'm watching Homeland now because it just went on Netflix.
That's funny.
It just dropped on Netflix. It's actually
like a
really
throwback.
good. I know. I haven't seen it.
I love Taylor Sheridan, who's behind the show Landman, because he kind of makes you look into a perspective that you
Is it about the
otherwise.
environment?
It's about oil drillers and the workers and what they go through and how dangerous the job is. Anyway, it's a really interesting show if you guys are interested.
And this ties back to the AI topic, because a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. And I'm not saying we should throw everybody off of, everyone working in fracking or whatever, they should just be fend for themselves. We should make sure that they have a cushion to fall back upon, and to make sure that we give them the skills with which they need to thrive in the new economy.
And I think that that's a beautiful approach. It's extremely utopian, which I'm very for, but survival of the fittest is survival of the fittest. So we're just, how we initiated this conversation, this talk show. Politicians in real life do not care about the people the way that we like to think that they care about the people. Right? Yes, there's a certain aspect where, yes, we want to do what's common good for everybody. But at the end of the day, they're going to drill and they're going to continue creating technology and biochemical wars and everything else that feeds their curiosity. Because when you are wealthy, you get extremely creative. What are you going to do now with money? What else can we create? Let's go out into space. Okay, now we need these data centers to support. The wealthy gets creative. So the people that will not survive will not survive.
Wait, are you just to clarify, are you saying that we should just don't give a fuck about the oil workers?
No, at all. I'm saying that in the grand scheme of things, the big picture, there's going to be people that advocate for people, like us, but the oligarchs, they're not really, we just had our entire talk show.
I don't think anyone needs to tell us that the oligarchs don't care about anybody but themselves. But I'm just saying that we can actually suggest programs, and Trump has been open to them. Trump has actually been a huge advocate for apprenticeship programs and other trade school programs that give Americans actually tactile skills, tangible skills that they can use to thrive in the new economy. And by the way, one of the biggest beneficiaries of the AI revolution, they're going to be plumbers. And I'm not even saying this facetiously.
Plumbers and electricians. electricians.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They are going to be better off than lawyers and coders because they're
workers.
irreplaceable. Because AI, my grokkie, I love her, but she's not going to come and fix my toilet.
It's
Right.
a her. I thought it was.
She
a
thinks
male.
it's an Asian girl. She
Okay.
thinks
All
it's-
right.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, that's actually really funny.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
why don't we just have a brief conversation about the holidays?
Christmas.
Yeah, because we're filming this prior to Christmas happening, but I wasn't in on the production meeting, so I don't know exactly what the angle was supposed to
Take
be.
it whatever way you want.
All right,
to,
fine.
Anna. Go ahead.
So with Christmas coming up, or the holidays, I should say, I don't know what everyone's religious beliefs are. What do you guys have planned? What are you looking forward to the most? What do you love? Here's a good question. What do you both love and hate about the holidays? I'm going to start with you.
Well, I think what I love most, obviously, is you get to travel and all the Christmas lights, the family gatherings. And I think what I hate most is the expectation of everybody to have a gift. Like, what did you get me? What are you going to get me?
Yes.
And this happened with a family member yesterday where they just sent me a link and they're like, this is what I want.
Really?
Are you serious?
Wow.
You're an aggressive family.
Yeah.
This is a nuclear family rather than
they're like,
extended.
this is what I want, just so you know. I'm like, oh, wow, well, that's very daring and courageous, okay, but, I was thinking something else, but okay, I mean, so I think that,
Are you going to agree?
well, it wasn't.
How close is this
Yeah.
family?
Do you like this family member?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Very, very much. But
If it's a sister, you have to go with whatever the sister says. I'm just going to throw that out there. If it's not a sister, do whatever you want.
it's not so much about the pricing, because sometimes you think, your expectation is actually higher than what theirs is. It's just the fact of it's Christmas and you should let somebody gift you something
100%.
that they want.
Yeah.
I also have like a little bit of a rule where I just we're adults, and I don't know about you guys, but I have a gang of nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure they get gifts.
Wait,
so
you give presents to everyone?
yeah.
Wow.
And
do you have a budget?
But here's my rule.
Do you have?
My rule is no presents for adults. We're adults.
That's a good rule.
I don't need anyone to buy me a gift. I'll buy
Yes.
myself gifts.
Yes.
Okay, but I want to make sure the kids get their
Wow.
Christmas
How
gifts.
many nieces and nephews do you have?
8.
Wow.
Oh my
Yeah.
Well, because
That's a lot.
Cuban family and Armenian, so.
Yeah. My brother has 4 kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, so you have individual they're different gifts for all 8.
Well, okay, so this year I just decided to give each one a hundo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fair.
because I'm I'd rather have their parents invest that money for them.
Yeah, sure.
And that's the rule that, I mean, they don't have to follow it, obviously. It's a gift. They can do whatever they want with it. But I've been helping each one of my nieces and nephews build up their college accounts.
Good for you.
So
excellent.
sometimes for Christmas, because I want to see them open a gift and get excited, I'll do toys instead or something that I know that they'll want.
Yeah.
But for every birthday, it's usually money.
Well, that's
and
the
this
best.
year I'm doing money.
That's the best gift, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's contributing to their future, so.
Exactly.
That's the best.
Yeah. And by the way, I mean, have you seen how kids react to opening their gifts? They open their gifts, they're excited, and then literally 5 minutes later, it's off in the corner somewhere. They don't care about it at all.
Yes.
So that's probably what I hate the most about Christmas, this pressure, the gifts, the
Yes.
pressure for the
Yes.
gifts. But what I love about it is you get time away from work if you're fortunate. Not everyone gets that privilege. But you get to spend time with your family, right?
Yeah.
It's
That's the best
intentional.
part.
Yeah.
That is the best part.
Definitely. What about you, Lindy?
I just I'm so deeply grateful this year. This year has been really hard. Last year was terrible. I remember I woke up around Christmas time and everyone's like, I hate you, you're a whore and whatever. I know.
Because you were no longer a Democrat?
Yeah, but this year I can't say, I'm so grateful for everyone here. I'm just so grateful to have this opportunity to be on the show, for our crew, this amazing team, everyone here, and I want to name them. Connor, Julius, Jake, Justin, and I'm blind, and I'm really sorry. I'm operating on half an hour of sleep. Who am I forgetting? I'm sure I'm forgetting someone. And also PBD, Tom, everyone. They created this show. I'm just so grateful to be here, and to get to come to Florida in the middle of winter is also a huge privilege in itself. So.
No, that's
Totally.
awesome. Well, as a viewer, we're all grateful for the show. So thanks for putting
Grateful
out
to
great
you
content.
for coming in. Thank you for the Christmas color.
Yeah, we kind of vibed today a little
Oh
bit.
my gosh,
Yeah,
Anna.
that's true.
You guys
All
are
right.
wearing my favorite color.
Green?
Especially that one. Yes, I love that color.
Thank you. It was my attempt at being Christmassy for the show. So
Love it.
That I wear green.
What's your favorite thing about Christmas or the holidays?
I have a specific thing this
Okay.
year that I'm grateful for.
Your dog!
I did. I got a puppy
She
a
has the
month ago.
cutest dog. Do you have a
Here he
picture
is.
of her phone?
Yeah, his
Oh,
right here.
that?
He's a Bernedoodle. He will be standard. He'll be about 80, 85 pounds, full grown.
Oh my gosh.
And he's just the cutest thing.
What's
name's
his name?
Doug. Because he'll be a big floppy dog. Yeah, so I named him Doug, and he's just the cutest thing ever. So he's my favorite thing for Christmas this year.
All right. Yeah. Well, we are about to sign off and go enjoy the holidays. But I want to give you ladies an opportunity to plug the work that you do. So let's start out with Janel Baez.
So I'm a journalist. I'm a former news anchor, and I do a lot of public relations for finance companies. I'm heavily into Bitcoin and tokenization and mining. That's what our company does. And I'm very involved politically as well as a commentator.
All right, Lindy Li.
I'm Lindy Li. I'm on Connect. Please find me. I love you guys. I'm also everywhere on social media. Sorry if I'm too much. I love you guys. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year.
Christina Bobb.
My name is Christina Bobb. I'm an attorney at Judicial Watch. I'm a former Trump attorney. I was his representative on site during the Mar-a-Lago raid and got sucked into all of the Jack Smith investigations. I have a new book out. It's called Defiant: Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare, forward by President Trump. It is the real story of what happened at Mar-a-Lago. If you'd like to, please check it out.
All right, and I'm Ana Kasparian. You can find me everywhere on social media by just searching Ana Kasparian. You can also send me a question over at Connect and follow my show over at youtube.com/theyoungturks. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll see you soon.